If you've been getting dropped the second you peek, or you're struggling to find consistency in Battlefield 6, then this video is for you, especially if you're new to Battlefield, shooters, or just want to climb to the top of the leaderboard. We're going to break down every part of the game, gunplay, classes, gadgets, combat flow, and fundamentals of combat to give you some advice and knowledge that will make you way more effective and improve in Battlefield 6. By the end of this one, you'll have the fundamentals to help you survive longer, earn more points, and get higher KD in matches. These tips are focused around things that are either new in Battlefield 6 or the core philosophy of shooters in general, so let's get into it. Alright, we'll start with the fundamentals of gunplay. This is where most players either make or break their consistency of learning how Battlefield handles aiming and fire control, and learning this will instantly improve your fights. Battlefield 6 adds a bunch of new mechanics to the gunplay itself, and has returning ones that you may not be familiar with, so here's some tips to help you get better in those engagements. One of the first things that's really going to hit you when you start playing Battlefield 6 is the bloom system within the gunplay itself. A few games have used it before, with Halo Reach being one of the most well-known ones. If you ever feel like your aim is dead on a target but the shots just aren't connecting to where you're aiming, well, that's probably bloom at work. Basically, the longer you hold down the trigger and spray, the more that your bullets will spread away from the center of your crosshair and deviate all around where you're aiming. So it is good to be aware of it, as it has been increased since the beta version of the game, but there's a few things you can do to combat this. One adjustment that you'll have to make if you're coming over from other shooters, or if you're just struggling to hit those longer range targets, is to adjust your fire rate to the distance of the target. If your target's around 70 meters or further away, then you want to start using single taps or burst taps to take them out. This is way more stable than just holding down the trigger and hoping for the best. And in Battlefield 6, you'll always benefit from initial bullet accuracy, which is usually where you're aiming at when you start shooting. So tap firing and burst firing is very helpful. Now, talking about tap firing and burst firing, make sure to make use of your alternate fire modes on your weapons. On the controller, you can tap down on the D-pad while you're aiming, which will quickly cycle you through the different firing modes, with most guns having a single fire semi-automatic mode or just full auto. So there's a couple things you need to bear in mind and try out to increase your chances of landing those shots at medium to long range targets. Furthermore, standing still, crouching, and proning also increases the accuracy of your gun, so bear this in mind when committing to engagements, particularly when they're long ranged ones. Moving while shooting has had an accuracy penalty increased since the beta, so it is preferable to stand still while shooting distant targets. Also, if you have a weapon with a bipod, you can deploy this while prone or behind cover to massively reduce the recoil of your gun. This is useful on the support class, which has access to the deployable cover walls, and then you can deploy your bipod on top of it. You can even mount on top if you don't have a bipod. If you want to test out your gunplay and get used to things, then you should try out the firing range, as you can try different weapon builds and loadouts. All you need to do is go here in the menu and select your loadout, then press the firing range button. Now, Battlefield 6 doesn't by default have damage logs that shows the number of hits you got on an enemy, but there are a few settings you can turn on to see this. In the settings menu, go to the network graph, select edit, and turn on network widgets, as well as the event graph and damage log. You'll be able to see the amount of shots you fired, the damage taken, as well as the number of hits you got on the target. Now, once you have your head wrapped around the gunplay, it's time to focus on some combat fundamentals. How you want to move, engage enemies, and survive longer in fights. This is where most good players separate themselves from the rest, so take note. Something new to Battlefield 6 is the ability to crouch sprint. We are only now noticing how powerful this actually is, especially in modes like Breakthrough, as it allows you to greatly reduce your sound profile and your chances of getting shot. It can be a bit weird to do it, and if you want to activate it, all you need to do is start a sprint first and then press the crouch button. Now, in Battlefield 6, while you don't have a manual peek button, if you see this symbol while crouching behind cover or a wall, it means you're able to peek out of cover by holding down the aim down sights button, which is really good for getting a weird angle off and reducing your profile to enemy players. You can even change this in the menus so that you only peek from a particular side, which can help with not overexposing yourself to unwanted angles. There's also new actions for crouching, including rolling and sliding. You can double tap the crouch button while sprinting to do a slide, which is great to get you behind cover quicker, or to aggressively pop out of cover to shoot an enemy. In addition to that, you can save yourself from taking damage while falling by tapping B when jumping off of high heights to do a roll and reduce that fall damage. We've tested these suppressors and they're actually really powerful. If you're flanking or being a sneaky soldier, then do be aware that if you don't have a suppressor on your gun, you will show up on the minimap for all players while shooting. Basically, you're super obvious on the minimap. And this is exactly why you should keep your eye on the minimap, it's super important. Every unsuppressed shot will show up as a red dot, letting you track enemy movements across the map and easily spot flankers before they reach you. So make sure to glance at the minimap between gunfights. It's basically like a free radar that can warn you of threats and opportunities before the enemy even knows where you are. Here's some of the core fundamentals that you should be doing during combat. You want to use cover. There are so many pieces of cover and things that you can climb on to give you an advantage in any battle in Battlefield 6. Using cover limits your exposure to enemies when shooting at you and allows you to get some cheeky kills. And also, don't just stand in the middle of cover. Try standing to the side of the cover or to an angle to make you less obvious. Alongside that, going prone is great for engagements, as if there isn't much cover nearby, you can sometimes prone behind something, especially when you're being shot at. In Battlefield 6, there are a lot of players that just like to sit and hold angles, even in more niche routes on the map. So you should try slowing down your pace and not sprinting everywhere, as this will cause you to have a longer ready time to shoot than if you're walking and taking things a bit more cautiously if you think enemies are nearby. Furthermore, you want to always expect more than one enemy when fighting. This is a game about squads, so if you take down one enemy, just be aware that someone nearby in their squad is probably waiting to come and get you in response. So just play defensively for a moment rather than just running and pushing through everywhere. You can actually use this to your advantage as well. If you see an enemy on the floor, their teammate might go to revive them, and this can often get you an extra kill or two if you be a little patient. Another tactic around this is to make sure to reposition after getting the first kill. Commonly, if people are playing in a squad, they can communicate so that the rest of their squad will know your last known position where you killed one of the enemy players. So try to reposition to a new spot to catch any of their other teammates off guard. Furthermore, don't always just go through the front in a battle. In modes like Rush or Breakthrough, this is particularly important. Flanking can be a great way to break through the enemy's lines, and this is where things like crouch sprinting and smokes come into action. You can use the sides of the map to approach the enemy from unsuspecting angles and allow your team to break through. Now, getting shot at isn't going to be great, but there are ways to increase your survivability, and what you want to do is, rather than panic or just snake left and right while running, is to try and use cover in the area to break line of sight between you and the firing enemy. Jumping's also a surprisingly good option here, as most enemies will be aiming for your body, so if you jump, it will cause them to hit you in the limbs for less damage. On top of that, to be a bit quicker when running, you can always pull your knife out, or if you have a similar gadget to the repair tool in your hand, you'll run faster instead of holding your weapon. So if a tank is chasing you down, get your knife out and run away. One of the other melee options though, the Sledge Hammer, is amazing, as you can use it to break through walls to expose new pathways through the map. Well, now that you've got your gunplay and combat down, let's talk about playing the objective, because in Battlefield, kills only get you so far. Winning a match comes from your positioning, your team play, and your objective play. The more points you have, the more unlocks you'll get as well, meaning you'll get access to better attachments and even weapons as you rank up, so improving your score kind of allows you to live longer as you'll unlock better gear sooner. So unlike other shooting games, Battlefield isn't just about getting as many kills as you can. One of the best ways to increase your success rate is by utilizing the different classes and their gadgets. Playing as an engineer and seeing a teammate's vehicle that is damaged allows you to repair it, and it will give you a ton of points and keep that vehicle alive. Or if you're playing Recon, you can use things like the drone to cheese a ton of points by spotting all of the enemies, which gives your team a major advantage. This is an easy way to get you higher up on the leaderboard. Sometimes you may load into a match as the squad leader though. This is shown by the cross icon near the squad symbols. If you are the squad leader, a good habit you can get into, which also gives you additional points, is to ping objectives to signal to your squad to prioritize capturing or defending that point. If you're successful, you'll get the squad order completion bonus for extra points. And while you're on an objective, make sure to look out for how many other enemy players are contesting you. This is a great indication of if the odds are in your favor and how many people are very close nearby. If you're dramatically outnumbered, you may just want to back off or play defensively to get some easy picks without alerting everyone on the point. Alright, so let's move on and talk about loadouts next. This is where a lot of new players fall behind. So getting your setups right early on makes a huge difference, and Battlefield 6 allows for even more flexibility than before. We have dedicated videos on weapon setups, so here's a few tips and tactics to get you in the right mindset for success in Battlefield. If you're just starting out with the different classes, well, Battlefield Studios have done a great job at making the starting weapons very reliable and viable, and some of them are some of the best weapons in the game. Just as a reminder, you can use any weapon on any class in non-closed lobbies, but you will get additional bonuses if you're using your class's weapon type, like SMGs on engineers. So, building out your guns can be a bit daunting from our testing, but there are a few things that make for good high-tier guns. For attachments, you can do things like grips and muzzles that reduce the recoil, and also anything that increases the range and bullet velocity on a weapon is generally great. You can also expand the stats menu screen to get more information on what exactly is going on. As you progress, you'll unlock the ability to have multiple loadouts. Make sure to make use of these so you can adapt to what's going on in your match. You may want to have a setup that is for close range engagements and then another one for more longer range ones. And it's good to know there's additional weapon versions of different weapons that you could have unlocked just by doing things like playing the campaign, pre-ordering the game, or having various versions of the game. Some of these have attachments that are higher tier unlocks which are already available to you, and some of them are very powerful for a new player as they can come with attachments like suppressors and other things that you normally unlock much later on. To find these additional versions on the weapons or the pre-order versions, just click on a weapon and then click an additional time to the select menu where you can see the different versions of the selectable weapons that may have additional attachments that you should make use of. Now that you have a handle of the loadouts though, let's move into the mechanics as Battlefield 6 introduces some new ones that you really want to make use of. If you're downed, something that will keep you from racking up those deaths is requesting a revive. This marks you in the game for any medics or teammates that can revive, and also shows their distance from you. You want to do this in game modes like Conquest, as if you are downed, you won't use up a ticket if you get revived. This is how the game scores who wins, so you don't want to use those tickets unless it's needed. Furthermore, you can drag teammates while reviving them to pull them around corners or into cover to get them out of the open, which reduces your chances of getting shot as you revive them. Also remember, smokes are a great option to go for some easy revives. Pinging is also very powerful in Battlefield, so try to ping as much as possible, as this will actually spot and mark enemies on the minimap and on the screen for your team. This means you're more likely to get assistance in taking them out, and it's much easier to track targets and their distance from you, as well as groups of enemies. With the ping system, you can even go deeper by holding it down, giving you an in-game way to comm to teammates requesting repairs, ammo, healing, and so on by holding down that ping button. Now, while you're sniping, the fire mode selector will actually change to your zero distance. This allows you to set the distance of your sniper so that the bullet drop will align better with that distance to where you're shooting. So if your target is 200 meters away from you, you want to set the zero distance to 200 meters so that your crosshair matches the bullet drop. However, there's a much easier way to do this once you unlock the rangefinder attachments, as you can then hold the button down to automatically zero to the exact distance that you're aiming at. If you don't have this, a great way to tell the distance between you and a target is by pressing the ping button twice quickly in an open area of the map. This then shows you how many meters away from that ping you are. It's also good to know you don't need to be playing as the support to benefit from them. You can just run up behind any support player on your team when you need to grab some ammo and just interact with them to take supplies directly. This is super handy as some people just play support for the vibes and don't actually want to help their team. So this way you can manually grab ammo to restock rather than just spamming a request to have them drop you a supply box. And speaking of supports, the classes are the backbone of Battlefield. Each one plays differently, and knowing how to use their gadgets properly is what separates casuals from consistent players. And this is because there are so many different scenarios that pop up that you need to have a handle on each class. So here are some general tips. Battlefield 6 is of course a ton of fun to play, especially when you find a class that really matches your playstyle. So it's good to know how each one plays. Do you want to get up close and personal with the assault? Do you want to support your team with the support class? or be more on the back lines, giving your team vital information with the Recon. Finding the right playstyle for you is important, but Battlefield's also about adapting to the moment, so experimenting with each of the classes could mean that you end up playing the Recon class with something like an SMG if that's more to your playstyle. So first up, you need to adapt to the match. You can play your role, but don't be afraid to switch classes. For example, if you're playing Assault, but then you see that the enemy team is dominating with a tank, you shouldn't be afraid to switch to an Engineer to help your team take it out and gain ground. And after that, you can just simply switch back. Furthermore, as you earn points in a match, you'll actually earn training path points that unlock various perks and passives for you. These are kind of like specializations for each of the classes that enhance their particular style of play. You can get more points by playing the objective, assisting your teammate, and just generally being a good player. This is something to be aware of, as once you start maximizing your points, you'll gain abilities like becoming a mobile supply point on the support class, or calling in a UAV on the Recon class. Let's talk about some gadgets. First, we have the Assault. The ladder for the Assault is a great tool as it allows you to access areas and flank enemies that your team normally wouldn't be able to get to. The redeploy beacon is now on the Assault, and once you've unlocked this, you want to start using it as much as possible to help capture and secure more ground for your team, as it gives your squad a different area to redeploy on. Something very important to point out with the Assault is that if you find yourself running out of ammo really fast, it's probably because you have a secondary weapon like a shotgun equipped. What you want to do is unequip this, and this will double your primary weapon's ammo, allowing you to replace that second weapon with a gadget of your choice. Assault with the M4A1 is a great pairing. This is an amazing fire rate weapon that can destroy enemies at most ranges, and if you want to just stick with this weapon for the rest of the game, you totally can. But you can also stick with the first gun you unlock, which is the M433. This is a very high fire rate gun, which is great at those medium to close ranges. Now, the Engineer, of course, is great at taking out vehicles as it has access to various launchers. We found that the RPG does fantastic damage, but requires you to shoot tanks in particular weak points on the side or the back. But if a tank is playing really well and you can't get those hits in, then you may want to switch to the Law Missile, which is just the default one. It's very effective as it automatically guides the rocket to explode from the top of the tank for very consistent damage. Furthermore, you can repair friendly vehicles with your Engineer tool, but you can also use it on enemy vehicles to quickly destroy them. It's very powerful. The AV mines are very strong for locking down roads and choke points, often one-shotting tanks if they ride over several at once. For the Engineer, we've tested most of the early game weapons, and we've actually found out that the basic SGX seems to be one of the most top-tier SMGs available right now. So just keep using it until you get some good attachments, as it won't let you down. Now, moving on to support, they're basically the team's lifeline. The support is great at several things like resupplying your team with ammo, healing teammates, and smoking areas out. They also have access to the Defibs. These allow you to instantly revive a teammate just by tapping them, and you can also charge it by holding it down to revive teammates at full health. When you play as a support, you want to go for reviving your team, as they give you a bunch of points per revive, and the more points you get, the quicker you unlock those attachments for your guns. Also, do not sleep on the smoke grenades. While a traditional grenade may net you a kill or two, the smoke grenade can lead to way more kills in the long run, as it allows you to quickly flank the enemy team or cover an area so you can't get sniped. They are amazing for pulling off reses as well, as you can just throw it on your team and start reviving. Not only that, smokes will also remove pings and spots from anyone inside, so they are just very good. The support is a great class to play if you're struggling or you're new to the game, because it gives you a way to heal yourself and get ammo back with the supply box. The supply box is amazing as it also recharges your gadgets over time, including things like your grenades, which often allows you to go over the usual starting carrying capacity of things like grenades, so very useful to know. For the support, the L110 is great, but if you have the deluxe version of the game, you also have the Hatchet version, which adds a suppressor to it, which will keep you off the minimap the majority of the time. It's great at mowing down enemies. Now let's go to the Recon. They have access to the Laser Designator. This is really good as it allows your team to take out enemy vehicles much easier. You can use these as binoculars to mark things, or deploy it on the floor and then remotely activate it to see through them, allowing you to paint multiple vehicles. Painting vehicles allows some weapons that normally can't lock on to actually lock onto a vehicle, which is amazing for team play. Plus, it speeds up the lock-on speed of other launchers, so enemy vehicles will not last as long as they normally do when they're painted. As mentioned earlier on, the Recon also gets access to the Recon drone. This is a mini drone that you can fly up into the air to spot enemies and take out enemy equipment. You can manually control this or leave it up in the air stationary to spot enemies for you. This is an amazing way to get points as it increases your score for every spot you get, and then you get spot assists when the enemies are taken out. You also get Claymores, which are super powerful in Battlefield 6. If you place them in high traffic areas, you'll get a ton of additional kills. And while the Recon is more about stealth, you also have access to C4. So if you see a tank nearby, you can run up, lob C4 on it, and blow it up in one. Now, much like many of the other classes, the default sniper seems to be one of the best choices, as the final sniper unlocks much later on, and to be honest, the default one won't set you wrong. If you have the deluxe edition, you'll even get a special version that comes with a suppressor and rangefinder already on it, which is amazing to start out. Another cool thing about the Recon class is that they actually ping enemies automatically just by aiming at them down your sights. This is different from the automatic spot that every class has, as it does a full spot on the enemy, not a half spot. Now, once you've mastered the classes and the ground combat, it's time to look at vehicles, as they are one of the most easy ways to have a good round. And we can't tell you how many times we've seen players waste them, so here's some useful things to know. If you're playing as a tank, look out for enemies with rockets and make sure to prioritize or avoid them. Your biggest dangers will be the RPGs or mines, so as long as you play safe, you should still be able to climb the scoreboard. In the main battle tanks, you can also switch between the machine gun and the main turret, but you can also change your shell types, so make sure you have the right one selected for what you're firing at. Now, aerial vehicles are very mobile since the beta, so you want to make use of the environment for cover when you can. And if you're struggling with the controls on the helicopter, we suggest changing the buttons to the alternative setup, as this will allow you to accelerate with the triggers, making it feel more like old school Battlefield. The gunner seat is also extremely strong in the helicopters, as you can take out other helis in just 2 full bursts. Plus, the secondary lock-on rockets are extremely good against armor-like tanks, so playing with a friend or having a gunner is a great bonus for both of you to get kills and XP. An important thing to note when playing in vehicles like tanks is to not just rush onto the point or objective, as you'll become the target for the whole enemy team and you'll blow up pretty quick. Instead, you want to progressively push up with your team. The tank is like the anchor of your team, so you want to make progress together as you gradually push onto the point. Furthermore, vehicles are great for destroying buildings and cover that the enemy team is camping in, and you can even cause buildings to completely crumble. Now, if you're getting low and you've taken damage and you need to repair, you can always head back to base and use the repair machines which are scattered around the map, so make use of these in the tanks, don't just sit there on low health. Well, that's pretty much everything you need to know to start performing better in Battlefield 6, from improving your aim and movement to making the most out of your gadgets and class setups. If you did pick up a few new tricks from this, make sure to share it with your squad so everyone's on the same page the next time you drop in. And if you want more deep dive guides like this, covering advanced tips, weapon loadouts, and updates as they drop, make sure you're subscribed below so you won't miss out when we put those videos live. We really appreciate you watching, and we'll have more Battlefield coming your way very, very soon. Here at Arekkz Gaming, we're 2 friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 26.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.